Angela Merkel last night warned the European Union to stop bossing around Britain ahead of the next round of crunch Brexit talks. The German Chancellor insisted it is not for Brussels to define the UK's future relationship with the bloc. The veteran leader said the EU should instead listen to British negotiators before deciding whether a compromise is possible. "We need to let go of the idea that it is for us to define what Britain should want," Mrs. Merkel told a group of European newspapers. "That is for Britain to define, and we, the EU 27, will respond appropriately." The German leader's intervention comes as Michel Barnier, the EU's chief negotiator, continues to demand the same levels of access to Britain's fishing waters and a strict regulatory level playing field, with a role for the European Court of Justice, as the price for any deal. But Mrs. Merkel warned any Brexit agreement must not undermine the EU's single market. She said Boris Johnson would have to live with the consequences of weakened trade ties with the bloc. With Prime Minister Boris Johnson, the British government wants to define for itself what relationship it will have with us after the country leaves, Mrs. Merkel said. It will then have to live with the consequences, of course, that is to say with a less closely interconnected economy. If Britain does not want to have rules on the environment and the labour market or social standards that compare with those of the EU, our relations will be less close. That will mean it does not want standards to go on developing along parallel lines. Mrs. Merkel is set to play an influential role in the remaining Brexit negotiations between the UK and EU when she takes over the bloc's 6-month rotating presidency next month. But the German suggested the trade talks will still play second fiddle to the EU's recovery from the coronavirus pandemic. She said her efforts will focus on the challenge of unprecedented dimensions posed by COVID-19. This week Mr. Barnier said the bloc is prepared to come up with a clever compromise in order to strike a Brexit deal. The European Union's chief negotiator warned the Prime Minister he would have to meet him halfway when trade talks resume next week. The Frenchman told a Brussels-based think tank a future relationship pact is still in our reach but hit out at Downing Street for showing no willingness to find a middle ground.